incredible story to tell. Jose can give us insight into challenges faced by undocumented immigrants in this country and how we can be effective advocates for immigrants and immigrant rights. He is the author of the book, Illegal: Reflections of an Undocumented Immigrant. We welcome questions during this interview, which you can ask in the question box in the webcast panel. We will do our best to get to as many of them as we can. Welcome, Jose.
Thank you, David. It is such an honor to be here today with you.
Thanks. So Jose, tell us your personal story. How did you get here? What were the circumstances? When did you come?
Well, the circumstances were basically the same ones that many people from my background faced. You know, I grew up, working class neighborhood in Mexico with not a lot of opportunities. So there were only dead-end jobs for me to have in the future or going up north. And, I inevitably, chose the latter because I knew that was the only way out of stagnation. So one day, about 23 years ago, just over 23 years ago, I took a bus from Guadalajara to Tijuana, and that's when it all started.
Right. So you came here, and what did you do when you finally made it across the border?
Well, I did all sorts of jobs when I first got to Chicago, which is where I've spent most of my life, certainly my entire adult life. I did all sorts of jobs like mowing lawns, working in factories. I mostly worked in this restaurant for over 10 years, in a Mexican restaurant, and that's basically what I did. I held like 2 or 3 jobs at a time, and most of them, menial jobs.
Right. So here you are today, an accomplished author. You're educated. You write. How did you go from mowing lawns to being a public figure and an author?
I think that speaks a lot about the good qualities of this country, where you find that kind of opportunity for people like me, whose background really didn't offer much, but once you find the kind of opportunity that this country has to offer to people, and you realize that you can be part of that, that's how that's something to be valued about this country. In specific, what happened in my case was that I realized very early on, since I first came, that the first thing that I needed to do was to learn to speak to you, people around me, because otherwise I wouldn't get anywhere. I mean, there were many different instances where this was suggested to me, just by the interactions that I saw around many people, my own relatives included, depended on their children to communicate for them, to translate for them, and I made a very conscious choice, and I said to myself, that's not going to happen to me. I'm not going to be one of those people.
You worked as a translator for a while, correct?
Yeah, I did work as a translator, and which is still something that I do today. That's how I make a living, translating documents from English to Spanish. Sometimes the other way around, but mostly from English to Spanish. But I mean, my whole relationship with language, both English and Spanish, has been very complicated throughout the years because, one, I left school in Mexico, formal school, when I was about 11 years old. So I only had like a 9th degree education, and I grew up with no books. I grew up in a house that had no books. So my vocabulary was very limited, which means that eventually when I started going to college in Chicago, I was about 28 years old. So for me, knowing how to argue, how to make arguments, how to put thoughts together, complex thoughts together, came to me first in English and then in Spanish, but only after a very long time.
I see. At one point, you had lost a job as a translator. Can you tell us about that, or you had given up a job as a translator?
Yeah, well, that was after many years of going to college, going to grad school, and trying to really find my way into the American middle class, because ultimately that's where I aspire to, becoming economically self-sufficient. I mean, that's the reason why I left my country of origin to begin with. So, I got a chance to get this job, which I did for about 5 years. But then, thanks to some initiative by the Obama administration, I lost my job because they started doing all this checkups with social security numbers and things like that. And one day, I got this letter of saying that I needed to clarify a problem with a social security number which I had provided. And I just said, this such story that I've heard in the past, and that certainly, that to me, that only meant, two things: you either get fired or you quit. And I decided to leave on my own.
Mm-hmm. Right. So we've been hearing a lot about crackdowns on undocumented immigrants, about people being sent back to their countries of birth. We've heard some of them have been guilty of crimes, some of them minor offenses, some of them nothing at all. Can you describe the current atmosphere among undocumented immigrants, what you hear, what you feel, what's being said and done?
Well, I think people are terrified. I am scared and terrified, but I mean, and that's something that you hear around the community a lot. Some people are taking their children out of school because some people have been taken away when going to drop off their children at school. So that's a problem. That's a problem because it doesn't just happen there. It can happen anywhere. It can happen, going to work. So people are very anxious, certainly, because of everything that's going on. But that is a reality that we have been living with for many years, and that's the reason why initiatives like this, conversations like this are important for us to have to bring awareness to people about the reality that people like myself face, and 11 million people. I mean, yeah, just to be more concrete, just recently, a mother of 4 American children in Ohio was deported back to Mexico. She had no criminal background whatsoever, but she was still deported to Mexico, having 4 American children. I mean, that is what's happening. I mean, I don't know that anybody thinks it is a good idea to break families apart, and nevertheless, that is what it comes down to now.
Right. So with all this fear, here you are on a webcast in public, you've written a book, you blog. Why do you take the chance?
Well, David, I think we have to realize that this is not about me. This is not about a single individual. This is about millions and millions of people. In the end, it's also about this country. It is about the history of this country. We're trying to continue a tradition of immigration that this country was founded on. It was founded on the principle that people from other places came here to do a better living, to make a better living, to try to do better than they did back in their home countries. And that has traditionally been the case. Now, it hasn't always been easy. I mean, people, the Irish, the Italians, they went through the same thing. So now it's our turn. I mean so that's why we're here.
Mm-hmm. So one of the controversies emerging since the presidential election is over this idea of sanctuary cities, cities that declare themselves safe havens for undocumented immigrants. They oftentimes instruct their local police forces not to cooperate with federal authorities in deportation proceedings. What do you think of sanctuary cities? What's the current move among sanctuary cities? Are they really under threat by the federal government? What do you know about them?
I mean, I think what the federal government is trying to do right now is trying to coerce those cities into working with them so they can detain people like me. You know, I'm a person who works and who contributes and who pays taxes and who has a family, and I'm involved in the community. You know, and you know, sometimes I volunteer for the PTA, and you know, I do other kinds of volunteer work as well. And it is people like me that they are after. It's not even the people who have criminal background. They just want to deport every single one of us, and that is why sanctuary cities are important. They're important because those are places where we live, where we work, where we contribute to the economy. I mean, if we were to not be here, if we were to get deported, I mean, the economy will suffer, and that's something that people don't realize. You know, the issue of immigration is so complex, so complex that people don't really have the time to sit down and listen to its complexities and to the way that people benefit from it, and the way every single person is complicit in this drama of undocumented immigration. You know, all the way up to from the most humble person all the way up to Donald Trump. Everybody benefits from it. Whether or not we want to accept it is a different matter.
Right. So the president wants to build a wall. What's your take on a wall? Would it have his desired effect? Would it stop immigration? Would it? What message would it send? What is your thought? What are your thoughts on the wall?
Yeah, my thoughts on the wall are that it's a stupid idea to begin with. To spend how many billion dollars they want to spend? 25 billion dollars, something like that. I can't remember. So they want to take away the right of people to have access to healthcare, and instead they want to put that money and build a wall in the middle of the desert. And how? Yeah, I don't even know how to put it. That to me is only who is the genius behind this this idea. I don't know. I don't think it's gonna stop immigration because it has already stopped. People from Mexico have not been coming to the States for a very long time. Quite the other, it is going the other way actually. People are going back to Mexico.
Right. Why is that, Jose?
Well, there's many things. I mean, one thing is that people don't want to live like this. I certainly don't want to live in hiding, which is why I'm out here. I don't want to live in a society where I have to hide. I mean, that's not healthy. Two is some people just don't find that the place that they knew before is welcoming anymore. Three, some people just want to leave. I mean, there are better opportunities in Mexico for them now, and there are many Americans who are going back to, who are migrating to Mexico. They're never going to have this problem that we have. They're not going to be undocumented. They're going to be issued some visa. They don't even need a visa to be in Mexico to begin with. So, yeah, so Mexican immigration has stopped. People are not coming from Mexico anymore. So that's building a wall in the middle of the desert to stop nobody from coming seems something absurd. But I mean, that's the sort of thing that you can expect from a person like Donald Trump.
So this country is embroiled in a major debate over immigration writ large, larger immigration policies, refugees and the like, but also with the undocumented immigration issue. And there's heated debates that you hear all the time, and it's certainly a political hot button issue. What do you think the U.S. policy ought to be toward undocumented immigration?
Right. Well, I think this is a really good moment to have a very serious conversation about undocumented immigration and the reasons why there are 11 million people who live in a perpetual limbo in the U.S. I mean, 11 million people is not a small number. It's almost the entire population of Illinois. It's certainly bigger than many countries in Europe. So it's not an insignificant number of people. that we're talking about. Now, why are those people here? Why am I here? You know, I'm here because I heard when I was 19 years old that there was a job over on 111th Street, you know, that paid $5 an hour washing dishes, which I was thrilled to have, and which I had for many years after coming to the States. And I can tell you that for people who say that we're taking, you know, we're lowering the salaries for American workers, that is not the case. I mean, those are jobs that people were not willing to do, like, you know, other jobs people are not willing to do are work in the fields, you know, picking apples, oranges, you name it, and you know, they're saying, well, if those jobs were better paid, you know, American-born people will do them. But that's not true. That's not true. I mean, there's been documented cases back in 2012 in Georgia, places like Georgia and Alabama, where they passed very draconian anti-immigrant laws. People who worked in the fields left those states, and the fruits and vegetables in their fields, they rotted. I mean, they basically went bad because there weren't people there to pick them. And not only that, they took people out of prison so they could go pick those vegetables. But once out, they were like, well, I have no obligation to do any of this kind of work. So when that happened, they started hiring people, paying $17, $18, $20 an hour, but nobody was coming. And the people who did come stayed for an hour, more than, you know, not even 2 hours, and then they left. It is back-breaking work, and people don't want to do it. Doesn't matter how much it pays. They're not willing to do it. In fact, the people who are more interested in passing some sort of a comprehensive immigration reform bill are farmers, because they know the value of immigrants. They know that they work hard. You know, you go to places like, for instance, Washington State, Wisconsin with the dairy farmers. You go to places like certainly California, for instance, and they will tell you that they want more people they want people to stay, because otherwise, you know, instead of paying 99 cents for a gallon of milk, which people do pay, the prices are going to go up to like $7 or $8, and then, you know, people are really going to be in trouble.
Right. So what would you like to see from people who agree with you, who want to be an ally to you and to the undocumented immigrant community? What would you like to see us do? How can we be supportive of you?
I think there's a lot of people who want to be supportive, and many times you just don't know what to do, because the rhetoric is so toxic, and the other people who are so well organized that it's difficult to kind of like respond in a way that's actually fruitful. But I don't know, calling your representative will be a very good start. You know, making people aware that we're not numbers, that we're not criminals. You know, we're people with personal stories. You know, we are people who have children, who play with your own children. You know, we are people who contribute to this economy. It is because undocumented immigrants working in the fields that you can have breakfast in the morning, lunch in the afternoon, you know, dinner at night. So if we were not to be here, you know, if we were to all be deported at some point, not only are we going to suffer, not only are they going to be breaking our families apart, I mean, the economy of the country will suffer as well. So I think, you know, we need to somehow tell a narrative that really speaks to people who are willing to listen, because let us be honest, I think there are people who are just convinced one way, and they're not gonna change their minds. Doesn't matter what. It doesn't matter if I were to tell them right now, undocumented immigrants paid $12 billion last year on taxes. You know, during the last decade, we paid $100 billion on payroll taxes. They're not going to believe any of that. I mean, but it's true, it's there. I mean, the IRS is saying it. It's not me making it up. So I think what the way, you know, people could help will be to press legislators and ask them what their position on immigration is, and why are they not putting up a bill that will legalize our status here. After all, we're part of this community.
Right. Great. Well, Jose, we really appreciate your time, your thoughtfulness, and for educating our community and our network on this this really important issue. And it's good to hear firsthand your own experience and to humanize an issue that's so often just seen as an argument on television. So thank you so much for being with us. I really appreciate the insights, and we know we're going to be facing this as a challenge. I also want to thank all of our viewers for tuning in to this inaugural CRCast. We hope you will join us for our next CRCast on May 17th at 4 p.m. with Julie Hammerman, in which we will discuss the social responsible investment movement's influence on Israel and BDS and other communal concerns. I promise you it will be a fascinating discussion. You can register on our website at jewishpublicaffairs.org. Have a good week. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.